Forgive me, but every time the senator hits the table, it can harm the interpreter's hearing. My apologies. What are you waiting for? If the legal opinion is lawful, then share it with us, and we'll clear it up immediately. Mr. Senator Carignan.
You would appreciate that it is not the contents that we're trying to protect. What is critical in protecting solicitor-client privilege is a relationship that existed, as I mentioned, for hundreds of years between solicitors and their clients, which promotes candor and free and full and fair advice. Understanding that that privilege is sacrosanct between that professional and their client. It is important to the functioning of law in this country and in British common law.
Don't talk to me that way. I feel like you are taking me for a fool.
Madam Chair.
Please do, and then Senator
J'en ai des clients.
So the point is,
des clients. Si le client
I guess I'm not able to finish.
Si le client me dit, vous pouvez parler, donner l'opinion juridique.
If a client tells me that they are breaking solicitor-client privilege, then it is broken.
I remember fondly your frequent references to Supreme Court case law at this committee, Monsieur Le Carignan. The Supreme Court in case law has actually attributed this, and I'm reading from a case called McClure, that this ensures vitality of full
I conclude
between those who need legal advice and those who are best able to provide it. The resulting confidential relationship between the solicitor and client is a necessary and essential condition of the effective administration of justice. That's the Cour suprême du Canada.
OK, donc vous la cachez.
I've got a point of order.
Madam Chair,
Those are your words,
maybe it's a function of people talking over each other, but I know that the interpreters are having a very difficult time translating the exchange. And when they have difficulty, we lose out. Those who don't understand the French language, I would have loved to have fully understood what Senator Carignan was putting to this witness, but I wasn't able to.
Okay, so
translation was not able to keep up.
I totally agree. May I ask all committee members and the witnesses to refrain from speaking over each other, allow the witness to answer, and then ask the question. If you need it shortened, you can indicate that. So, Senator Carignan, you have 1.5 minutes left.
Donc, j'en conclus que vous avez quelque chose.
So I can only conclude that you have something to hide.
Have that on the record,
Pouvez-vous m'expliquer que...
Can you say the emergency measures were essential? There's a note here, Jacqueline Bogdan, Vice Secretary, and they sent this to us after we requested this. Daily report, 11th of February, 8 a.m. A few people are on Wellington Street and surrounding streets. February 12th, 8 a.m., 0 to 5 people on Parliament Hill, a small number of people on Wellington and surrounding streets. February 14th, 8:13 a.m., nobody on the Hill, nobody on Wellington or neighboring streets. And then you invoke the Emergencies Act? Madam Chair, I remember Ms. Bogdan. She's a senior official at PCO. I haven't seen the document that Senator Carignan was citing. I was part of the incident response group. There were several officials describing a dynamic situation in several jurisdictions. I'm not sure how many people were on the street corner on Wellington at 8 a.m., but I'm very comfortable with the decision the government made.
Senator Harder.
Thank you very much, Chair. Colleagues, I think while we're 2 weeks after Groundhog Day, we're very much practicing the Groundhog Day theme by revisiting stuff that Mr. Virani, you participated in as a member and now as a minister. As a resident of Ottawa who was here during that whole episode, My question 2 years ago was, what took you so long? And my question today is, I'm on the appetite, Minister LeBlanc, of your announcement next week. Will that include commitments with respect to Wellington Street? Could you tell us whether or not there have been any consultations at the provincial level so that your statements of next week will reflect joint efforts, or is this a unilateral announcement?
So, Madam Chair, through you, thank you, Senator Harder, for the question. And I, too, was in Ottawa, not a resident of Ottawa, but I was in Ottawa during those weeks myself. And I certainly shared the sentiment that you expressed. And we all have friends and family members that witnessed that circumstance as well and came to the same conclusion. The response next week will be the Government of Canada's response, obviously, to the Rouleau Commission recommendations. Some of those recommendations were properly directed at other orders of government, as you noted. I don't purport to think that the Rouleau Commission will deal with the long-standing issue around Wellington Street, the jurisdiction of Wellington Street, the role of the City of Ottawa, the parliamentary precinct. I know that some of my cabinet colleagues, and maybe the Deputy Minister who's with me is in a better position, having participated in some of those conversations. That wouldn't be part of what we're going to be talking about next week, but I know that it's an active discussion, and I've heard, for example, my colleague Jean-Yves Duclos discuss that, but perhaps if Mr. Tupper has something around Wellington Street per se that I haven't contemplated in the Rouleau Commission finding, if you're okay, Madam Chair, perhaps the Deputy Minister could add something?
Simply to add that, indeed, conversations have been ongoing for some time. I would split them in two categories. The first is the definition of the Hill Precinct and how it is defined and what boundaries are set to it. And the second is how is it policed and maintained.